So welcome back to Where Do I Start? We are now in episode number 4. So we've got a nice foundation built. Episode 1, we talked about stocks versus options. Episode 2, we start talking about how you even make money with options relative to making money with stock. And then episode 3, we started to lay the groundwork for option contract specifics. And so now I want to continue that discussion around option contracts. And let's now dig into the two fundamental pieces of the options market. I want to talk about long calls and long puts. Now, obviously, with every option contract, there's always two sides to every option contract. There's a long side and a short side. The long side is also the buyer. The short side is also the seller of that contract. I want to start by looking at the long side of both contracts first. We're going to look at long calls and we're going to look at long puts. In the next episode, we're going to look at short calls and short puts. I was going to do them all together in the same episode, but again, I thought, man, let's slow things down and let's really try to handle things in bite-sized chunks. Because I remember from all my time in the classroom, it's so much easier to learn derivatives and options specifically from the long side of the options contract. It's going to make a lot more sense to you. It's going to be a lot more intuitive, especially when we start with long call options. And so we start with that and then we flip over to the short side of the contract next episode. So long calls and long puts, that is on the docket today here in episode 4. Okay, so when it comes to the options market, there are only two basic option types. There are calls and puts, like that's it. That's the whole options market in a nutshell. Now, obviously, there's all kinds of strategies and there's all kinds of subtleties and nuances and specific characteristics that you need to understand. And we're going to get to all that as the episodes kind of roll on and as this series continues to move forward. But right now, just understand, it's calls and puts. At the end of the day, it's calls and puts. That is it. And so again, when we start looking at a call option and a put option, let's focus on the long side of the option only. Let's start with call options. So a long call option can buy shares in the underlying stock from the short call option at the strike price. If you remember, going back to the option characteristics that we talked about in the last episode, every options contract is going to specify what is the underlying stock, when is the expiration date, what is the strike price, right? The strike price, again, is the transaction price that the transaction would take place at if the long side of the contract does decide to use that option. The option or the privilege or the choice to use the option, to exercise the option, always rests with the long side. So whether it's a long call or a long put, it's the long side of the contract that is always deciding whether or not he or she would like to use that option or exercise that option. And so when we think about a call option, specifically from the long side of that contract, the long call can buy shares at the strike price from the short call, and that would be the transaction price of that trade. Now with put options, you're kind of on the other side of the fence. You're kind of on the other side of the coin now. Now, the long side of the contract can sell shares to the short side of the contract at the strike price. So at that transaction price. And so the long side of the contract is looking to sell shares at the strike price. The short side of the contract is looking to buy shares at the strike price. So that's obviously confusing. Everything feels kind of flipped over. Everything feels very counterintuitive and backwards. And so this is why looking at call options first almost always makes more sense than starting with put options. Even though a lot of traders, once you get into it and you realize both sides of the contract, and you see the opportunities and all the different things, you're going to see you're probably going to be trading put options more than call options. That would be my guess when you finish this series and you kind of see how everything begins to shake out. But I'd be curious to know if that ends up being the case for you. And let me know. Let me know at the end of this series if you find yourself trading more calls or more puts. I'm very, very curious. I would be willing to bet that most of you guys out there are going to be trading more puts than calls when you realize what's happening on both sides of the market. But the long put can now sell shares to the short put. So it's very different from a long call, and in a lot of ways, it's completely opposite. Okay, so let's dig into long call options a bit more, and then we're going to hop into Tasty Trade and take a look at some actual stocks, real prices, and take a look at some profit loss diagrams to really get a better feel for what is happening on the long side of the contract. So with a long call option, this is a bullish strategy because as the call buyer, you want the stock to rise above the strike price. Remember, the strike price is fixed over the life of the option. Like, it's not going to change, whether it's the next 30 days, next 10 days, next 60 days, whatever it is, the strike price cannot change over the life of the option. Remember, we looked at this in the last episode last week where this is one of the fixed variables across the contract. It's not going to change. So if I bought a call option, I want the stock price to rise above that strike price and rise as much above that strike price as possible, because the more it rises above the strike price, the more value I will have from that call option. So for example, if I have a call option with a strike price of 80 and the stock price is 90, this is good for me. Like, this is good for me because if I bought this call, if I'm the long call in this scenario, I can actually use my option, exercise my option, buy the shares for 80 when they're actually worth 90. So I have a built-in inherent gain of $10. That's actually referred to as the intrinsic value of this option, but we'll get to that when we get to option pricing here in a couple of episodes. But let's say that the call strike was 50 and the stock price was 45. Now all of a sudden this is not so good. Right, this is a bad scenario for me because I'm not going to use my call option. Like, why would I exercise my call option to buy shares at 50 when I can just go into the open marketplace and buy them at 45? And so this is not a great scenario for me. This is a bad scenario for me as the long call. But then if the call strike were 100 and the stock price were 120, this again is a good scenario for me because the stock price has risen above the strike price, and that differential is good for me because I'm getting a quote-unquote discount on the stock price by using my option, buying the shares at the strike price, and then capturing the difference between the stock price and the strike price if the stock price is above the strike price. Okay, so that was a long call overview. Let's now turn our attention to a long put overview and kind of work through a very similar sequence. And a long put is now going to be a bearish strategy because as the put buyer, you want the stock to fall below the strike price. Remember, when I buy a put, it gives me the right to sell the stock at the strike price. Now, I don't have to. I can walk away. I'm not obligated to do this. But if I want to, I can sell the stock at the strike price. Remember, that strike price is not going to change. That strike price is fixed over the life of the option. So what do I want the stock to do? What do I want the stock to do, I should say? I want the stock to go down below the strike price. That's what makes this a bearish strategy. So, for example, if the put strike is 100, and the stock price is 80, this is very good for me. This is very good for me because I can sell a stock that's only worth 80 for 100 by using my put option, by exercising my put option. And so hopefully this makes it kind of clear to see why I want the stock price to go lower below the strike price. Now, let's say the put strike was 90 and the stock price was 100. This is not so good for me as the put buyer now. As a long put holder, this is not a desirable scenario for me because why would I use my put option and sell the stock at 90 when I can just go in the open marketplace and sell it for 100? And so obviously the put option is not giving me any incremental value. There's no extra benefit to the put option in that second scenario. Lastly, let's say the put strike was 30 and the stock price was 45. This is also bad for me because, again, I'm not going to sell the stock at 30 by exercising my put option when I could just go right into the marketplace and sell it at 45. And so when I buy a put option, I want the stock to fall down below the strike price. So hopefully this is somewhat clear. But now let's hop into Tasty Trade and let's take a look at a few real-time examples. Okay, so I'm inside of Tasty Trade and I've got McDonald's pulled up because this is the stock that everybody is trading. They're not trading Apple. They're not trading AMD. Like, we're not looking at Open Table. Like, it's all about McDonald's, MCD. So if we go into McDonald's, if I go into the June cycle with 43 days to go, let's say that I want to buy a slightly out of the money option. Now, for right now, don't worry about moneyness. There's all kinds of strikes on the screen. We saw this a little bit last time. Don't focus on that right now. We're going to get to all that here in the very, very near future. But I'm just going to pick an option where the strike price is slightly above the stock price. So let's say I were to choose the 290 call strike. The calls are on the left, remember, and the puts are on the right. So right now, with McDonald's at 282 and the strike price at 290, this is not a great scenario for me yet. This is not a desirable scenario for me as the call buyer because I want McDonald's stock to be above my strike price. And so right now, the call option is not helping me. But again, remember, I've got 43 days to go before this option expires. So if over the course of the next 43 days, McDonald's rallies and goes above the strike price, then I'm going to be in a very, very good spot. But right now, it's not giving me any value. So if it stays here, if McDonald's stays below my 290 strike, then that is not going to be a good outcome for me, and this will be a losing position. Okay, but how much will I lose? Well, this is where an important part of a long call option comes into play. When you buy a call, or even buy a put for that matter, whenever you buy an option, the most you can lose is always the debit that you pay. So the most I can lose is going to be the debit that I pay. So if I'm wrong, McDonald's stays down, the stock price stays below my strike price, the worst case scenario for me is I am out $5.35. Now, that's $5.35 per share, and there are 100 shares per contract. So the total maximum loss is, of course, going to be $5.35 per share times 100 for $535. But my gain potential, my maximum profit potential is unlimited. So because there's no cap, there's no ceiling on how high McDonald's can rise, my profit potential on a long call option is infinitely large. And so if McDonald's goes to 290, if it goes to 300, if it goes to 350, if it goes to 400, if it goes to 450, those are all great for me, and that's just going to lead to more and more profits on this position. And so if I keep this trade up, but I move from the table view to the curve view, you're going to get a nice visual representation. I'll just minimize this so we have a bit more room on the screen. You're going to get a nice visual representation of what the P&L diagram looks like for a long call, right? Any price above my break-even point, I'm going to make money, and this line continues to be sloped upward at every price point above, 290. And then the most I can lose is going to be at the prices below my strike price of 290. That is going to be the debit that I pay. And so you see that my losses are indeed capped, my gain potential is uncapped, and this is, of course, one of the most desirable aspects of, a long call or a long put for that matter. And then lastly, one thing I did want to make sure to bring to our attention here is notice how even though at 290, this is good for me because the stock has risen above my strike price, I'm not making money yet. I don't start making money until I get just beyond 295. Well, that is because, remember, on this strategy, if I bring the trade bar back up, on this specific strategy, I'm paying $5.35 to buy this call. So obviously, for me to break even on this trade, I'm going to need McDonald's to at least rise $5.35 above my strike price. And so I have to overcome my debit paid to get into this profit zone. And then one last thing I want to say, this is all going to be the P&L at expiration. So a lot of things can happen before expiration. There's lots of moving parts. If you get a quick move in McDonald's, before expiration, you're going to start to see P&L changing prior to that, of course. But that's all coming down the road. Again, I'm assuming that you don't really know anything about options or derivatives, but you want to learn, and so we will get to all that in future episodes, I promise. For now, we're just kind of fast forwarding forward to expiration and using that fixed endpoint of the options life as our anchor to understanding the pricing, the strike, the stock, if the call option or the put option has value. And so I need McDonald's to exceed my debit paid in order to get into this profit region that you see right here. Okay, so now let's take a look at a put option. So I've got Amazon pulled up here. Let's go back into the June cycle with 43 days to go. And here I'm going to do the same thing I did with the call option. I'm just going to choose a put strike that's slightly below where Amazon is. Now, naturally, one question you probably have at this point is, Jim, how do I determine my strike selection? Like, how do I determine whether this is a good strike or a bad strike or the right strike or the wrong strike or what have you? Well, we're going to get into all that. We're going to get into all that and more as we move forward in this series. But for right now, let's just say I buy a 270 put in Amazon. Now, again, the same rules apply. It's very similar to what we saw with the call option. The most I can lose is this 760. The 760 debit is the maximum loss on the position if I am indeed wrong. Now, again, that's per share. So for the whole contract, it's going to be about $760. Now, again, right now, I've got Amazon at $276. My strike price on this put option now is $270. So is this a good scenario for me? No, it's not. Because why would I use my put option as the long put, as the put buyer, to sell Amazon at $270 when I can just sell it at $276 in the marketplace? And so I need Amazon to fall below $270. I need Amazon at $260 or $250 or what have you. And so those are all going to be much, much better prices for me than Amazon being above my strike price of $270. Now, when it comes to my maximum loss of $760, again, that's my worst case scenario. What is my best case scenario? Well, the best case scenario would be if Amazon fell all the way down to zero. If Amazon was a worthless stock, which is obviously not a realistic outcome for the next 43 days or really any time period into the foreseeable future, in my opinion. But that's where you get this maximum profit number right here that looks really good and it looks really juicy, but understand that you need Amazon to go all the way down to zero for that to be the case. And then similar to what we did with McDonald's, let's go to the curve view and let's look at the analysis on the curve view. Let's minimize this to give us a bit more room, and you're going to see a very similar shape to what we saw with calls, but obviously we're on the other side of the market now. We want the stock to go lower. That is where all the profit potential lives. If I'm wrong and the stock stays above my strike price, I'm going to lose the debit that I pay. That is the worst case scenario. It does not matter how high Amazon might go, 280, 300, 500, 1,000. It does not matter. The most you can lose is the debit that you pay on the strategy, which in this case is at $760. And so a similar shape, you see essentially unlimited gain potential. It's bounded by zero on the downside, of course, but that's effectively unlimited for all intents and purposes. I have unlimited gain potential and limited losses, and so it looks like the long call and the long put are shaping up pretty good. And that's true. Long options really tap into our human nature of kind of wanting that unlimited profit potential with limited losses, with the maximum worst case scenario kind of known on entry. But as you proceed through this series, and as we learn more, starting with short options in the next episode, you might change your mind. You might change your tune. You start learning about probabilities. You start learning about option pricing. You start learning about the different decay elements of what's happening in the marketplace. And with those option prices, you might very well find yourself looking at long options and thinking, man, that may not be as great as I thought it was. Maybe all that glitters isn't necessarily gold. Well, time will tell. You just got to stick around because your boy needs that watch time in this series. And we will take a look at all those things. And I'll see you guys next time.